Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the BFG podcast. Today we are here with Wellington Phoenix General Manager David Dome, a fan of the Wellington Phoenix, Liam Simon Wells,
Hey.
and Wellington fight for the next group member, Jonathan Higger. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
I will now open the floor to Jonathan.
Morning, David. So big week coming up. Boys playing at home for the first time in a wee while. How's the office and how are the team coping?
We are on top of things barely, I think you could say. There's a lot to do. You know, when you have a normal home and away season, games at home roll out quite methodically because you're just essentially rolling out the whole thing week after week with a few tweaks and amendments. But when you're running two big games out of nowhere, you've got to essentially rebuild everything from scratch. And we're trying to do two games at the same time with not that many staff because we haven't been running with we've been running with a shadow staff, obviously, because we've been based in Australia and we didn't need an event manager or ticketing manager or membership manager as such. So we're trying to build this with the staff that we do have, and everyone's a little bit flat out, but everyone's very excited and pumped for these games, finally to be back at home. To be honest, we're most excited that the team can play in front of a proper Wellington Phoenix home crowd, and at their home ground. I know the players are. I was over there. Unfortunately, we're not over for the Mariners game, but I went over there to Sydney for a CEO conference, and then I head up to the Mariners to Gosford after that to watch that game. And look, it certainly wasn't a fun bus ride on the way back. And I was having a chat to Ufi, and he was just saying, we just have to get back home. He said, we've been away so long. There's real sense of just tiredness with being away and just wanting to be playing in front of a home crowd like we did last year. And the bigger the crowd, the better it's going to be for that team. And that's what they're really looking forward to, no doubt.
Cool. We've had a couple of people just trying to get the inside word. Yeah, what are ticket sales like? Are we looking for a good crowd?
It's steady. Look, it'll be one of the bigger crowds of the year. I think we're going to struggle with the 24, which we had last year. I mean, that was we had everything go right that particular game. This year we're in the middle of an Easter weekend, which is not great. Ticket sales have been up and down. Like some days have been very, very good. Today's looking good, and other days have been poor. And we started off quite slow. We didn't start off. Last year we started off with a hiss and roar, which we didn't have this year. Again, quite late notice coming into it. Look, we think it's going to be a good crowd. It'll be the forecast is good. The weather is good. I think we'll get sales on the day. It'll be a good crowd. I don't think it'll be 24. It might be more like a 15, between 15 and maybe hopefully just over 15, something like that. But obviously, we're putting the message. We're trying to get the message out there. The team needs your support. The club needs your support to get along and support the players and the team and the club. And hopefully, we'll get a big, some really good solid days of sales between now and Sunday afternoon.
Cool.
If I could ask a follow-up on that, David.
Go for it.
With the Netlink train and bus service here in the Wellington Hutt Valley area announcing that due to COVID that they would have a shortage of drivers and they would have hourly bus runs and limited capacity. Do you think that contributed to the ticket sales at all?
Look, it doesn't help, but I know that we've been talking to Metlink. There's some good people here we've been talking to over the last couple of weeks. I know they are putting on additional buses. They are looking at because we are playing. They are looking at beefing up the buses so that the route's going to be affected as little as possible. It is 50% fares, remember, so you're not paying full fares. It is 50% fares. And we also know that I just heard from Shane at the stadium that there is car parking on the day on Sunday around the stadium, and it's $1 for 3 hours. So, sorry, $1 an hour, maximum 3 hours, which should be enough to watch the game. So people are trying to come to the party to make it to give as many transport options as possible, and we're certainly hopeful that there won't be a barrier to people turning up.
You want to take another one, Jonathan, or do you want me to take one?
That's fine. Hey, thinking about like the likes of Riley Bidwar, who's made his move up to the top team. Obviously, his family will be pretty excited to be there at the match. Is there anything special or different, happening for the families of the players who are going to be at home this weekend?
We host the families, and we have a Phoenix Lounge on level 2 where we put all the families there so they can be together. We also put all the academy kids down there as well in the yellow tracksuits, which looks really good. So that's pretty. We don't do anything particularly for the families outside that. We just give them the tickets and they can all turn up. It's good for players like Riley and Lewis Toomey, who is the other one who's gone over to bolster the squad as COVID has rolled in. But there are other young players like Finn Sermon, as you know, he's had a fantastic year. He's now, a solid centre back party with Scotty Wootton, and I mean that's the other dynamic in all of this. Of course, is you've got players like Scotty Wootton and Gail Sandoval who have played 3/4 of a season for Wellington Phoenix. One, never been to Wellington, never played in their home stadium, and two, never been to New Zealand. It's a mad world that we're living in. But they're all really looking forward to coming back. But in terms of their families, we put them in their room and they can hang out together and watch the game. And it's a good place to watch the game from at level 2 East South Lounge.
Fantastic.
If you can reveal, David, what are the chances of Gale staying in Wellington?
I haven't spoken to Ufi for a while on what his plans are for next year, because to be honest, we're just trying to crash through these games at the moment and get them out the way. And to be honest, I don't want to put a jinx on it, but we're looking at final series now and what potentially what that looks like. So we're working on all those things at the moment. We haven't spoken about Gale and what he wants to do there. I mean, there's a number of players who are coming on contract. We have to decide. Josh Soterio is another one. I know that he's talking to. He does. We do start talking to players as early as possible. I know he's talking to some of them. I don't know the exact status of Gale, to be honest. I know negotiations have started with some of the other players and probably have been for a while. But I'm for Gale in particular, I actually don't know.
Two questions and one here. How many points would you like to get out of the possible 18 or so that are available, ideally, realistically? And how do you ensure that you continue to keep the players for as long as possible, like Den Wayne and like Sam Sutton, before they take that next step with a franchise like Brisbane or Adelaide, or maybe even overseas to Italy, UK, etc.?
So I had a chat with Ufi, and when we were in Gosford, he's targeted 9 points for our remaining games. That's his estimate of what we would need to make finals. That's just top 6 though. That's not top 4, which a top 4 gives you a home semi, which would be fantastic, right? And realistically, I think 1 and 2 is maybe outside our reach now, but certainly 3 and 4 is not. Some of the results have started to go our way. So Melbourne victory drew last night. Adelaide won, against Sydney, which probably would have been great if there'd been a draw there as well. But the first target is always to make the 6th, and then to try and finish as high as you can within the 6th to get a home semi. That's always the objective of the club. So we've targeted 3rd and 4th, and we've got, like you say, we've got enough games left to be able to pick up those points required. The issue, as we've always identified, is the number of games we have to play in very quick succession now before the beginning of May, which is when the season finishes, including trips to Melbourne City at the end. So look, I think we could be reasonably hopeful that we'll have a run into the finals, and ideally a home final. And like I say, we've been talking to the league APL already about what that looks like. When do we play? Sky Stadium, all that kind of stuff. So that's exciting. It's really encouraging. And then in terms of the youth players, the young players, I would be surprised if a player like Ben Wayne or Sam Sutton just thought that an Adelaide or a Brisbane was a better outfit than Wellington Phoenix. Certainly, those players going on to professional contracts in Europe or in Asia, the club has always been 100% supportive. And we've always said to players, if an offer comes along, which is better for your career, 100% we will be supportive of that. And that's when you've seen Libby go, and you've seen Sapri go, and these players who've come through our system and moved on to other opportunities. Less so with going to other clubs in the APL. Some players have done it, and with mixed success. And some players have used it as another springboard. Like Marco is a classic example. He's gone from us, and he went to Australia and then went on up to Europe and then's come back again. But yeah, well, I mean, a lot of those younger players are on decent long-term deals. Oscar Van Hatten's on a 3-year deal. So the strategy is always, if you're good enough, you get a contract, we'll give you a decent contract, we'll build you into the first team, and then you look to go overseas, and we're always supportive of that. Not less supportive of them going to a club like an Adelaide or a Brisbane, who won't necessarily be able to support them as well as we would here in this country.
Now, before I move on to Liam to ask his 1 or 2 questions, so does that mean that there is, even if they sign to say 2024, like Ben's on, there's no that just in case sort of thing, there's no guarantee that they'll stay that long?
Oh, look, and we target those players we want to retain, and that's Ufi's job, is to, we have a football committee where we discuss the strategy, which has a few of the owners on it, and the long-term strategy of the club is to bring through youth players and sign them to contracts, which then gives them the ability to springboard. So that's all, and we talk about the players, and then Ufi and Sean Gill, the football operations manager, are then given the task to go out and sign those people to contracts.
Okay, thank you. Liam, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so mine's sort of like a two-parter, more like towards next year. So obviously with the team returning for these 2 games to Wellington and Auckland, looking on to next season, have you sort of like got a schedule for like 2022, 2023 in terms of like home and like seems like home games? So with restrictions eased, it's a bit easier.
Yeah, no, we haven't, there's no calendar as yet, except to say we want to start in October and finish in March, April. So that kind of timeline, depending on whether we're going to break, because there's the World Cup, and then there's another international window in February, I think it is, February, March next year. So obviously the Wellington Phoenix's preference is we break for both of those. I think it's important that we break for the World Cup in November, not only primarily because potentially Wellington Phoenix will lose a lot of players if the All Whites qualify, but also if the World Cup is going and you're playing a domestic football competition, it's very difficult to compete and having those many messages to watch football in the market at the same time. So that's the general rule, was looking to start in October with breaking for the windows. But we haven't even finished this season yet. And to be honest, there are still challenges with finishing this season, given if COVID rolls into one or more teams and having postponements, we are literally stuck. I don't know how we finish. I don't know how we actually there's not enough weekends left. You run out of weekends and actually weekdays. Because as you know, we play like 3 games a week for 4 or 5 weeks to try and get our season complete. And some of the other clubs are in the same boat. So at the moment, we're just focusing on this season, getting through it with a broad outline as to when the next season's going to start and stop. Yeah. Yeah. But home and away, everyone is going on the basis that Wellington Phoenix will be back at home games at Sky Stadium, maybe one at Eden Park, 2 at Eden Park, maybe one somewhere else. Don't know. But let's just say a normal home and away season.
Yeah. I think that's my question. So I'm going to, Blake, if you want to ask another one.
Yeah, I got another one. So what sort of relief with the announcement from Jacinta Ardern a few weeks ago? What kind of relief was it for her to announce that there are no more restrictions as it stands on outdoor gatherings? What kind of relief did that bring to the club? And also, how wonderful is it to finally have them home? Or about to have them home after the game we were about to see.
Yeah, we were watching that announcement live, and there certainly was a cheer that went up because it was really the last blockage, and then we just started planning right away. Now, it is a bit of it cuts both ways, right? Because it's and the reason we're doing it is because it's the right thing to do for the fans. But it cuts both ways in that it is hugely expensive because there aren't enough commercial flights to get the teams in and out of New Zealand. There are no commercial flights into Wellington at the moment. And so commercial flights, it's a mixture of commercial and charter that we're doing, hugely expensive. And like I say, just a massive management effort on front of the team here to pull them off. But it's the right thing to do. And again, if it gives you a 5%, no, I think it's more than that, but if it gives you that a little bit of an edge to get 3 points across the line, it's all worth it. And if we come away with a 3-0 win like we did against Western last year, against Mariners and at Sky on Sunday, everything's worth it. But yeah, I mean, there were a number of blockages, and in the last 2 weeks have been numerous challenges that had to be overcome to try and get the teams in, and it's been tough and it's been challenging, but we've got through it. And the team arrives on Friday night, and they come in. They'll train on Saturday at Sky Stadium, and then we've got the game on Sunday afternoon. So, in terms of getting everything across the line, because getting people into New Zealand is not easy. We're bringing back the entire squad plus management. It's 30 PCR tests you've got to done, 30 travel declarations, passports have to be done, sent to charter companies, flights have to be booked, hotels have to, it's a massive logistical exercise. I mean, we're lucky in that we're quite well skilled in doing these now, but it's not, we essentially drop everything, and this is all we're doing now for the next 2 weeks. But like I say, if it helps get 3 points across the line, and the fans go out and have a good an afternoon now that they enjoy and remember, it's all been worth it.
Lastly, for me, was there any sort of discussion with the government to the effect of, because there's not so many international and domestic flights, was there any sort of talk about sort of compensation or talking to them about getting special flights, dispensation?
Well, we talked to all the major airlines, Air New Zealand and Qantas, to ask them to put on more flights, because coming on this charter out of Sydney are two teams, Mariners and Wellington. That's about 70 seats on a 170 seat plane. We're about half full anyway. The issue, and we went to the very top of Air New Zealand and at Qantas, and the issue is it's the time taken to bring on staff when there's been, because you got to remember, over COVID, a lot of airlines made redundant staff. So you've got to bring back pilots, navigations, crew, all these sorts of things. You can't flick a switch. And all of the airlines are scrambling to get these people back as quickly as they can, but it doesn't happen overnight. So yeah, no, we did. It wasn't so much government, Blake. It was the airlines themselves. Sport New Zealand has been very helpful throughout the whole process in facilitating a lot of these. We had to go through a completely separate process to get the internationals from teams from both Phoenix, Mariners and Wanderers in. So there was a separate process for them, because while Australian New Zealanders can get in as from today, I think Australians come in without visas, internationals still have to get visas, and they still have to be COVID vetted. So that was a completely separate process, and Sport New Zealand helped in there as well. So it's been a very much an effort from a lot of people. But again, at the end of the day, everyone's just tried to do the best they can to get it across the line. And if we can run out on a Sunday afternoon and there's two teams playing A-League football on Sky Stadium, I'll be happy.
Any final comments from you, Jonathan, before we wrap up here?
All I'm asking is if people haven't bought tickets, are considering buying tickets, to please support the players and the club. We certainly need it. It's been a really rough. I mean, we haven't, like Jonathan was saying, we haven't been here for 322 days. It's been a really tough 2.5 years. Buy tickets, bring friends, bring family, bring whoever you need, but mostly to support the players. And I think it was Sam Sutton I heard on News Talk ZB talking to maybe Adam Cooper or somebody. And he was saying that last year, when he ran out to play in front of that 24,000 crowd, he said the difference that it made was unbelievable. And he said he felt like he could run all day. And he said that was it. And that's what it actually boils down to at the end of the day. It's like the support that the players feel. And that's what you get from a home ground advantage, because they feel the support of the crowd, and it just gets you that extra level of performance. And that extra level of performance could be the difference between making the 6 or even making the 4. When we make the 4 and we have a home semi-final at Sky Stadium, we'll have 25,000, 30,000 people there. And it'll be a real event, not just for the fans of Wellington Phoenix, but for the people of Wellington and for football fans in New Zealand, because we know what that does. It does galvanise the football community and the sports community like nothing else when you're playing a knockout semi-final. And that's what we want to achieve by having these games here, is to give the team the best possible opportunity to come away with 6 points in 2 games.
Jonathan?
Oh, I've got nothing to add, Blake. I think David summarised it nicely. We really do want as many people as we can to be there supporting the boys and making as much noise as possible to get those 3 points on the weekend.
Okay. Well, if there are no other comments, I will say nothing from you, Liam.
No, I'm good. This is it's everyone put Thompson said, yeah. Obviously I'm not in Christchurch, so I'll definitely be watching on TV. So let's go to the team.
Okay, well, I will say thank you to the viewers for watching this video. Thank you to David for joining us again. Thank you to Jonathan and Liam. Don't forget to like and subscribe this video. Turn on the notification bell, and we will see you on the next episode.